Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel here at I9 Intelligence. We're covering how to handle an ICE audit or 10 steps to protect your business from costly penalties. And let's just jump into it right away. Why would you want to self-audit your I9s? Well, if you haven't heard already, the penalties have gone up again in 2025. They can go up to over $28,000 per violation, including $2,800 for even simple paperwork violations. So for larger businesses, this can be a major problem. Two, you want to identify errors before they become violations. You want to demonstrate good faith compliance efforts. ICE, when they're doing audits, we've seen this time and time again. They really want to see that there's a strong I-9 policy in effect for the company and good faith compliance efforts. So obviously, if you're self-auditing on a quarterly basis or regular basis, whatever it is, you have a policy. The federal government, when they do come to audit, will see those good faith efforts, and often they'll just kind of help you fix things rather than set you up with millions of dollars of fines. The other thing is you'll want to be prepared in the event that you are audited. If you're in a higher risk industry like agriculture, construction, manufacturing, hospitality, restaurants, that sort of thing, where there is a lot of employee churn, you want to be ready for that 72-hour response deadline. They're not messing around, and you want to be ready for that. Okay, so let's get into it. Tip number one, prepare your audit process. So this means you're going to want to designate an audit team or responsible individual to help lead the process. You're going to want to track it. So a spreadsheet is a useful tool for tracking individuals, for findings, for that sort of thing. A report, your company leadership, legal counsel, general counsel, law firm that supports you, they're going to want to see those documents that show your process and how you're doing it. And then you're also going to want to be careful here. Discrimination is something the federal government is often looking at with this kind of audit. So have a neutral, non-discriminatory selection criteria for how you're going to audit through all of your records. And then you're also going to want to ensure confidentiality. This is a common miss. Surprisingly, I think smaller companies, they're not aware that it's called PII, personally identifiable information. So social security numbers, birth certificates, uh, copies of passports, that sort of thing. It's personally identifiable information. And you have to have confidentiality and protections around that kind of information. It's a really big thing. And then you'll want to be able to schedule those audits regularly. Quarterly is a good rate. If you're kind of like monthly seems like too much, you definitely don't want to do weekly. But I think quarterly is like a pretty good place to start for most companies. So that's first, kind of just preparing your audit process. Number two, gather all of your records. So there's an important distinction here between current employees and terminated employees. So you're required to retain records, I-9s, for people who are no longer at the company. So you want to kind of check what those specific requirements are for your business. A lot of times, like a good rule of thumb is hold on to things for up to 3 years. But for some companies, it's longer. So you want to think about that and speak with your general counsel or with an I-9 compliance expert. You'll also want to collect the I-9s for all current employees. Part of the audit process is just knowing where everything is. If you have multiple locations, if you operate in multiple states, if you operate in multiple countries, you want to think through where are all of our records. Um, so and even if you're using an HRIS solution, like a one-stop shop for HR, you still want to see where your records are and make sure you have a solid audit trail of all the key fields in a Form I-9, including sections 1, 2, and 3. Next, you want to organize all these by any missing I-9s. You want to categorize those, and then make sure that everything's organized by status. Employees active or they're terminated, location, HR manager, different parts, fields that you want to track. And then you'll want to start going back to your records, really start tracking any forms that you can't locate. Okay, number three, step three, you want to really review for completeness. So make sure all your forms have all required fields completed. Sounds basic, but you'd be amazed how often, especially with paper forms, how often required fields get missed. And obviously, if you're missing a required field, the form isn't good, and you're going to see a fine if you're in an audit. So you'll want to definitely verify employee signature and date is in section 1, and then employer's signature and date in section 2. And that can, you want to check section 3 as well for re-verification. And then make sure section 1 is done by the employee's first date. We're going to publish another video around can you do an I-9 before a start date, but that's not the topic of this one. But you just want to make sure that that section 1 is done by the employee's first day. And then section 2 within 3 business days of the hire. Okay, so that's completeness. We'll probably do another video around how do you make edits to a Form I-9. But again, that's another topic. Again, this is for your audit. So if you're missing things related to completion of these forms or dates are off, that's where your audit is going to show up problems so you can improve your process. Number 4, common errors for section 1. So again, employee name, personal information. If you're missing any of that, that's important. Incorrect or missing immigration or citizenship status, alien registration numbers, USCIS numbers when required. Those are all kind of areas where things can go wrong. And then again, back to the missing employee signature or date. That's really key. And then future dates as well for dates after when section 1 was fully signed. So let's move on. Number 5, section 2, again, similar to section 1. You're just looking for common errors here related to section 2. So maybe you're missing document information around title or issuing authority, number, expiration. Accepting improper document combinations. This is where an electronic system is going to be really helpful, and where we see like paper I-9s, they just can't, like, this is always wrong. Generally, missing employer certification, signature, or date. Again, you'd be amazed, but this happens again, especially with paper I-9. Stuff just gets missed. Or if a company's trying to hire really quick for something, like, hey, we gotta hire someone in 24 hours or something like that. That's where, if yours is a business where you have a lot of kind of like critical or like immediate hires, you're just trying to bring people on ASAP. This actually, is a big risk for people. Or missing your business name and address or getting it wrong, that sort of thing. You'd be amazed. People get it wrong. And again, mostly with paper I-9s, electronic I-9s get this right more, obviously. But you'd be surprised. People get it wrong, and especially the document combinations, things like that. Okay, moving on. Number 6, check for re-verification issues. So documents have expiration dates. Everybody knows a driver's license has an expiration date attached to it. So expired documents need to be properly re-verified. So that's kind of a big one. And then section 3 has to be done before the document expires. There are some exceptions to this. USCIS, the handbook for employers, talks about this. We talk about this on our website. We have it built into our software, but it's something you'll want to look at and make sure that there's so many different kinds of documents that authorize employment. Across visas, different kinds of visas, etc. So you want to really make sure that you're tracking this. This is a big part of your NN policy, especially as you end up being a bigger employer. I'll say this doesn't just apply to, high turnover jobs. This also can apply to technology companies, consulting companies, law firms, all different kinds. This applies to any company. This can be a major risk, not just, other sorts of businesses. So that the federal government might have a little more focus on. So then you'll want to review also rehire documentation for employees who have left or returned. I'll give you a little tip. It's generally easier to just file a new I-9 if you're rehiring someone. Okay, let's move on. Number 7, document your findings. So you're going to want to create that detailed audit report that shows all of the issues found. So track your issues by type, by frequency, by severity. The goal of an audit is to find recurring patterns that you can then adjust in your policy and adjust in your process throughout your business. It's supposed to help you create insights to improve the process. If you show that you are improving your process and you're documenting the changes and you're tracking the issues and then actually fixing them, the government is a lot more lenient during audits. And then you'll want to go and actually fix those problems as well. So that's part of the documentation. All right, step 8, correct the identified errors. So the again, the I-9 seems like such a basic form, but there are so many ways to get it wrong. And especially, again, this is why we see less than 10% pass rate for paper I-9s and why electronic I-9s have a much higher success rate. Although, again, we also audit a lot of electronic I-9s from big HRIS platforms, and they often get it wrong as well and miss compliance. So in terms of correcting identified errors, you want to make sure section 1 has to be fixed by the employee. Sections 2 and 3 have to be fixed by the employer. So that's really important. And again, you just draw a line through the incorrect information. If it's paper, put in the correct information, initial and date. Never backdate forms or use correction fluid. So no whiteout. Don't do that. Okay. Step 9, handle the missing I-9s. So if you don't have an I-9, just do a new one for current. If it's a current employee, just do an I-9 right away. Just do it today. And then on the current date, you can put in, there's a little bit of discussion around this, but usually this works. And you want to talk to an expert, talk to one of our compliance experts, talk to your general counsel. But you can write in current employee dash completed pursuant to self-audit and then put the current date. But don't backdate to the original hire date. That's a miss. We see that in audits. It's a problem. So because it looks like to whoever's auditing, if the government is auditing it, it looks like an intentional, like it looks deceptive, if that makes sense. So if someone is terminated, just document the missing form. It's not really possible to create a compliant I-9 after someone's been terminated. So just document your good faith effort. Again, this is why doing these audits is important, but document your good faith effort to maintain compliance, show your policy, and show that you're making improvements where you can. Okay, last one. Step 10, implement preventative measures. So how often are you training your staff on proper I-9 procedures or onboarding generally? And get specific. People should get trained on how to do this correctly, especially, again, if you have e-verify requirements, if you're federal, which, I think there's 17 states now that have e-verify requirements. If you're a federal contractor, we've seen it even companies who are subcontractors on larger companies that have federal contracts, they have to do this as well. Make sure you have a really clear I-9 policy, make sure there's training, document that it's happening, who's doing it, how long it was, who was there. Do these regular internal audits. Like I said, quarterly is a good rate. If you're really small, you could probably get away with, twice a year or even yearly, especially if you have a solid policy in place. You don't have to do it every, 3 months. And then if you're on paper, please consider moving to electronic. As your company matures, your compliance risk really grows. So again, I'll just call this out because I think so many people we talk to don't understand the risks here. But these penalties, they're not small. They can be over $28,000 per violation, and even just the paperwork violations can add up to $2,800 each. It's not just the business who is at fault. We've seen plenty of instances where individuals at a business, so an HR director, a CEO, someone responsible, that competent person, there could be an actual criminal penalty levied against them. So again, if you're using paper I-9s, it creates a huge amount of financial and compliance risk. You're not going to get even better than probably 10% pass rate on those paper I-9s. You want to use an electronic solution that can get you up to 100%. So I'm Jed. I'm the CEO of I-9 Intelligence. You can go to our website. We have a ton of articles, content, and we're going to be posting a lot more here on YouTube. And thanks for listening. And let me know in the comments if there are specific areas or instances where you have a question or you have a specific case you want to go over. Feel free to drop it in the comment. But again, please, no personally identifiable information, any of that sort of thing. Just speak in general terms. All right, signing off. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.